Einar Tangen is a China foreign policy analyst and joins us live from Beijing. Welcome, Einar. Well, China has long, of course, been criticized for its practices in places like African countries. People call it debt diplomacy, that it's oil for loans. And now what many have predicted is starting to happen. We just saw last year Zambia default on its loans to China. Does it get more difficult for China to call these relationships win-win?
I don't think so. I mean, remember, this is China tends to look at things on a very long-term basis. Obviously, the last couple of years have been very difficult. Debts, not only to China but other places, are going to go into default. It is a huge problem. Unfortunately, the G20 did not address that when they last met. So China is doing what it can. I mean, obviously, you heard it in your previous report, summed up very nicely. China needs resources. It's near one middle of the pack in terms of countries. Out of 200, it's around 100 in resources per person, and it wants to have markets for its goods. Now, its goods sell in these markets because they're inexpensive and relatively good quality for what you're getting. So it's not some devious plot. This is very simple, a win-win situation. Obviously, there are going to be bumps in the road. There were projects which were influenced by the political parties, whoever was in control at the time. They weren't necessarily always executed in the best way or as strategic as they might be. But you can see China is clearly changing its tune on that and wants to make sure that there's sustainability to the projects that it's helping with.
Right, not just in terms of repayment. I mean, we are seeing some 18 African countries now trying to restructure those loans and work with China to try to make it work. But there have also been environmental issues. The fact that China doesn't always follow labor standards that you see, for example, in Western countries. All of those questions that have continued. Does it just open the door to other competitors going in there? For example, Turkey has been reaching out pretty heavily to Africa recently.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds good. China has been, I mean, Africa has been there for a long period of time. It's been colonialized, subject to colonial rule for many of the last couple of hundred years. I don't know that that necessarily helped. This idea that trying to paint China as the new colonial power is wrong. I mean, they're not trying to govern these countries. They don't go humming with like the IMF and the World Bank and insist that every loan has, basically you have to adhere to our system. China believes that each country is sovereign and has the right to try to pursue, without outside interference, its own path to prosperity. Whether that actually happens under the governments is not something that you can enforce. I mean, the U.S. tried that in Afghanistan and other places in the Middle East. It's been a complete disaster. So at this time, it's not always ideal. But if the opposite is to do nothing about Africa, I don't think that that is exactly responsible. Saying that there are problems in the environment, I would agree, and there has to be more attention paid to that. But remember, the environmental standards are enforced by the local governments, and it's not the big state enterprises that are in violation of these things. It's often these small wildcat miners and small businesses that have moved in that are the real problem, and that has to be addressed by these local governments.
All right, good points, Einar. Great to talk to you.